Good afternoon. One element at the top, and then we'll go ahead and get started with your questions. The United States is deeply concerned by Tunisian President Said's calls to dissolve the Supreme Judicial Council and the reported barring of employees from entering the Supreme Judicial Council. An independent judiciary is a core element of an effective and transparent democracy. It is essential that the government of Tunisia uphold its commitments to respect the independence of the judiciary as stipulated in the Constitution. The United States reiterates our calls for an accelerated political reform process in Tunisia that responds to the aspirations of the Tunisian people through the inclusion of diverse voices representing political parties, civil society, and unions, particularly in the ongoing national consultations, and that ensures the continued respect for Tunisia's human rights. At this critical time, we also urge the government of Tunisia to prioritize implementing the economic reforms required to stabilize the financial situation and address Tunisia's growing economic challenges. With that, happy to take your questions. Matt.
Thanks, Ed. So I realize that Ukraine is still the flavor of the day, but I don't really have anything big on Ukraine. So I will, after I ask my first very brief initial question, I'll defer to others on Ukraine because I want to go to Iran. Just on Ukraine, the joint statement, I realize that in the press conference, the Secretary and Mr. Borrell spoke about Russia, but I'm just wondering why there was no mention of Russia at all in the joint statement from the EU-US Energy Council meeting. I mean, it wasn't, the word wasn't even in there.
Well, the word Ukraine certainly was. There was a robust discussion of Ukraine. There was a robust discussion of the contingency planning that we're doing in the event that Russia does not choose the path of diplomacy, does not choose the path of dialogue. And as the joint statement noted, the Council reiterated that it is unacceptable to use energy supplies as a weapon or geopolitical lever. This is what we have been saying all along, and much of the discussion today between the Secretary and between the High Representative was part and parcel of the contingency planning that we've been doing for some time now.
But what, I mean, was there a reason that Russia's not mentioned in there? I mean, presumably, yes, it's obvious that the threat to European energy security is coming from Russia. They're the main supplier, and this is. But I'm just wondering why it wasn't mentioned. Was there some objection to it being mentioned, did it ever come up in the discussion?
I am not aware there was any substantive reason for it.
All right, then I will pass. And but I do want to. I have a couple important ones on Iran.
I'm sure we'll get there. Definitely.
Senior U.S. officials are in Europe this week coordinating sanctions and export control measures that can be used in the event that Russia invades Ukraine. Is the U.S. looking for commitments from counterparts during this trip on what action will be taken if Russia invades? And will Nord Stream 2 be part of discussions?
So, Daphne, what we spoke about earlier was the fact that we continue to take part in robust and to lead robust coordination and consultation with our European partners and allies on the consequences that would befall Moscow if it chooses the path of aggression. We've been consulting very closely with our allies and our partners over the course not of weeks, but really of months now. And that includes the package that would respond to Russian aggression. And so as you alluded to today, a U.S. delegation that included officials from Treasury and from the Department of State, including the Assistant Secretary of the Treasury for Terrorist Financing and Financial Crimes, Elizabeth Rosenberg, Assistant Secretary of Commerce for Export Administration, Assistant Secretary Rosamund Kindler, Deputy Assistant Secretary here at the State Department, Molly Montgomery, traveling to Europe to discuss technical coordination. So over the past several weeks and even longer, we've discussed at a strategic level what the consequences that would befall Moscow were it to choose this path. There have been very detailed discussions in the context of that. Beyond the broad top lines, there are a myriad of details and technical matters that will need to be worked out if we are in the unfortunate position of having to move forward with this strong and unified response. And so what our team from the State Department, from the Department of Commerce, from the Department of the Treasury are doing is meeting with their counterparts and European interlocutors to have those, to continue, I should say, those technical discussions to ensure that across the board we're ready to go should, again, we be in the unfortunate position of needing to mobilize this response.
Will Nord Stream 2 be a part of that?
Well, I don't know if they'll be part of these specific discussions. What I can say is that, of course, the President is meeting with Chancellor Scholz today at the White House. Leading up to this meeting, we have had a number of discussions with our German allies on energy security broadly, on Nord Stream 2 specifically, both in the context of what we're seeing from Russia and beyond. Yeah. Yes.
Thank you, Nate. Good to see you again.
Good to see you.
Thank you. I have a few questions on South Korea, China, and North Korea. First of all, on South Korea. South Korea government frequently fails to participate in the UN Security Council statement condemning North Korea's missile provocations or ignores North Korea's human rights issues. How does the U.S. evaluate South Korea's attitude? The second one on the China. After the UN Security Council meeting last week, the Chinese ambassador to the UN has blamed United States for the recent missile launch by North Korea. As you know, the South Korea is, and I'm sorry, he insisted that the U.S. should take a more flexible approach. As you know, North Korea and China and Russia are strategically the same body. What is the United States position on China justifying North Korea's missile provocations?
So let me take your first question first. As you know, since the start of this administration, we have been investing heavily in our alliances and partnerships around the globe, and of course that includes in the Indo-Pacific. There are a number of shared challenges and shared opportunities we have with our allies in the Indo-Pacific, of course our treaty allies, Japan and the